What's up guys, Houndish here, and today we're back with another Destiny 2 news update, and of course it's Thursday so we get the TWAB, and today they give us more information about the legendary campaign for Witch Queen, what we can expect in terms of gameplay, but also rewards, which is pretty interesting. Then they also give us a more in-depth preview of new exotic armor pieces in the Witch Queen expansion, and there's some pretty awesome looking stuff there, but additionally, a new Vanguard investigation interactive trailer, more information about Void 3.0, and various other updates which we'll cover in the video. So, as always guys, I hope you enjoy this one, but now getting into it, they talk about the legendary campaign for Witch Queen. And they say from reward drops to how it will differ on a base level, we wanted to dive in a bit deeper into what this challenging experience has to offer. And so they say what are the main rewards of completing missions at legendary difficulty, and the list includes double chest rewards offering 1 to 3 extra chests per mission, and each chest will give you Whirlpool gear, XP, upgrade modules, and glimmer. But also legendary players will be able to earn the Throne World armor and unlocks at a faster rate. Essentially, the higher risk means higher reward, especially when getting to a new power level soft cap in Witch Queen. And they say completing all missions on Legendary will award players with the following: a new emblem exclusive to those who complete the campaign at Legendary difficulty, a triumph required for the newest title for Throne World, a set of gear 20 above the soft cap at 1520 power level, 8 upgrade modules, and new Witch Queen exotic armor that is typically reserved for Lost Sector drops, as well as exclusive Bungie rewards. So it's definitely going to be worth jumping in on Legendary difficulty, even for a chance at new exotics. And they say to set difficulty expectations, the Legendary campaign is designed to be harder than a Legend Nightfall, though it is easier to do than a solo dungeon or running a Grandmaster Nightfall. Enemies are more difficult and more aggressive, they also have higher damage resistance, are more of a challenge to stagger, and shields are stronger to unmatched damage types. And the challenge of Legendary also comes with switching up enemy interactions and infiltration, like swapping out an elite for a boss or having an influx of more red bar foes. But they also say each mission caps your power, similar to the raid contest mode, so that all Guardians have an even playing field to avoid feeling like every step is a grind. But they do say, if you're under level, be prepared for a tough fight. And for solo players, they say, we've had a lot of aspirational content in the past, but Legendary gives us a chance to give solo players a more equal footing with those that opt into playing with a fire team. Enemy damage and health scales to match a fire team, though it won't be 1 for 1, because triple the boss health isn't fun. Even still, it'll be enough to keep even a veteran trio on their ornamented toes. But they also didn't want to trivialize darkness encounters compared to solo play, so you're limited to 1 revive per player for each darkness zone, and a shared timer of 40 seconds before an automatic wipe happens. So the Legend campaign definitely sounds cool, offering bonus power, but also exotics, endgame materials, and loot drops, so it sounds like it'll probably be the most rewarding campaign that we've had to date. Give us your thoughts about it down below. Next though, Bungie give us a peek at new exotic armor. And here they show us a new helmet for the Titan, which looks really cool. And they say the Laurelly Splendor helm for Titans is more than just a pretty face. It has a cauterizing flame perk that allows for sunspots to heal players when they have the Sun Warrior bonus. Being critically wounded is no big deal. The perk also ensures that a sunspot is created in your location to give you one last fighting chance with that quick grenade and melee ability recharge and longer supers. Plus, more damage, which is always a good thing. And they say the goal was to give Sunspot players another choice besides Phoenix Cradle, but also melee builds are becoming more popular, and this makes higher level difficulty melee more viable, at least in theory. So that one looks really cool. But also, there is the Hoarfrost Z chest, and when a player uses stasis, it allows for a Titan's barricade to become an impressive wall of stasis crystals. These crystals will slow any target that gets too close, while also boosting a player and their fire team's weapon reload speed, stability, and range. So it's a huge stasis wall with all of the benefits of Rally Barricade. But then they show off some really cool Warlock legs. I believe they're called Secant Filaments, and with the Devouring Rift perk, these shiny walking sticks of power will grant a player Devour when they cast their Empowering Rift, allowing for damage from both allies and individual players, the ability to disrupt foes, but in style. And they also say Overload was added to increase excitement and expand the options players had to build for various champion-enabled content. But there are also the Osmiomancy Gauntlets for Warlocks with the Fervid Cold Snap perk, and this allows Cold Snap grenades to have an additional charge that will recharge faster when it makes direct impact, and the Seeker spawn from the Cold Snap will also travel further. And then for Hunters, we get the Blight Ranger Helm, and the perk on this allows players to redirect with their Arc Staff to deal an increased amount of damage, and Orbs of Power generation for all allies. And they say there are players that love wielding other people's attacks, creatures, game pieces, etc. against them, and this is for those people. And then finally we have some new gauntlets, the renewal grasps for hunters. And this comes with the Depths of Duskfield perk, and this gives a Guardian a much larger radius for their Duskfield grenades, while also nerfing incoming damage for allies within the Duskfield's range, and any targets locked within that space will also deal out a reduced amount of damage. And they say this gives Revenants the ability to play a more team-focused role, or to play more of an area denial and control game than they've been able to do before. So some very exciting new exotic armor pieces there. Let us know what you think about them down below, and which ones you're looking forward to getting your hands on. Also bear in mind, we'll be able to make use of that legendary campaign for chances at these exotic drops, which is pretty awesome. Up next though, something cool to direct you guys to if you haven't seen it, but Bungie have just posted an interactive Vanguard investigation trailer, and there's a full transcript from Ikora with some background about Savathun, but there are also nodes that you can expand for more information, and so I'll link it down below, but here's a quick preview of the transcript without the expanded sections if you want to check it out.
Savathun, the Witch Queen, Hive god of cunning and lies. Hive legend tells us she was born on a hostile, far-off planet, where she would have lived a short, uneventful life, if it weren't for the worm familiar that warned of an impending cataclysm. And so, she led her siblings into the depths, where the ancient worm gods offered them immeasurable power in exchange for endless blood tribute. From this, the Hive were born, and countless civilizations were condemned to extinction. For untold ages, they devoured life and light wherever it could be found, facing little resistance. Remember, Guardian, Savathun's strategy rests on knowing more than anyone else, on her ability to twist lies and cast confusion. But now, we can turn the tables on her.
So that's pretty cool, and once again, I'll link the page with the investigation in the description box. Now though, we're moving away from the TWAB content and we get some other important details. And in terms of previews for additional changes, DMG says that Gambit details are coming next week. But it adds, I want to set expectations now. The team is not tearing down and rebuilding the mode from the ground up. The team will illustrate the goals and walk through some changes that we hope will improve the mode while addressing player feedback. So that's some stuff that they'll discuss next week. But also they gave a brand new preview for Void 3.0, with a more in-depth breakdown of some of the abilities, as well as aspects and fragments, with some clips to show off exactly how they'll work. So they start by saying, before we take a deeper look at each class, let's align on some terminology. So initially we have Suppress, where the target is taken out of any active ability when suppressed, and while suppressed, the target cannot activate any abilities or movement modes, and combatants are disoriented. Then there is Weaken, where the target takes increased damage, has slowed movement and is disoriented, and Volatile, where the target will explode and avoid detonation upon taking additional damage. And if the target dies before Volatile has taken enough damage to detonate, the detonation happens anyway. But there is also Invisibility, where the player vanishes from sight and does not appear on radar, Overshield, where the player gains a protective barrier that immediately stacks on top of their existing health and shields and intercepts incoming damage. And Overshield also reduces the damage taken from PvE combatants. And then Devour, where the player is immediately restored to full health upon activating Devour from any source and is granted grenade energy. And when the player gets any kills with Devour active, they're restored to full health, granted grenade energy, and their Devour buff timer is extended. So those are the new kind of more universal definitions for Void 3.0, and next they give us a preview of the Titans. So they say previously the two supers, Ward of Dawn and Sentinel Shield, were tied to one another from a control standpoint, so that Titans had to use a similar input and sit through a chunk of Sentinel Shield activation animation before the Ward bubble was created. And they show a new fast activation of Ward of Dawn right here in one of the clips. And they say the two functions are now separated, which means that Ward of Dawn is now nearly instantly activated. And in addition, the Ward of Dawn has been moved to the fastest super cooldown tier, making it much more available to the Titan in need. And this makes it a much better reactionary defensive tool. As an example, if a hunter were to jump at you and cast Blade Barrage, the Titan can now pretty reliably activate Ward of Dawn before any of the enemy supers land, and survive as a result. So that's pretty interesting, and they say, just as before, Sentinel Shield Throw will allow Titans to traverse the battle bashing foes with their Void Shield or tossing their shield as melee attacks. And Throne Shields will damage opponents and apply Volatile if Controlled Demolition is equipped, while Shield Bash kills will grant full Overshield. They say there are 3 aspects to choose from with Void 3.0. Controlled demolition, where hitting a target with a void ability or volatile detonation will make them volatile. Bastion, where creating a barricade generates overshield for yourself and nearby allies, and those bunkering behind the shield will regenerate overshield over time and extend the overshield's duration. And then offensive bulwark, and while you have an overshield or are inside a ward of dawn, grenades charge significantly faster and you have increased melee damage, but you also gain an additional shield throw for your Sentinel Shield super. So that sounds pretty awesome, but next they speak about the Hunter, and we have a clip of the Hunter's Vanishing Step. And they say in addition to the Spectral Blade super, the Shadow Shot variants that Hunters are accustomed to, Deadfall and Mobius Quiver, will still be found in the Void 3.0 updates. Though there are some changes to be aware of. For example, Mobius Quiver will fire volleys of 3 arrows that will now track targets and make them volatile if they're tethered. But in addition, with Deadfall, the void anchors that are dropped after shadow shots will now pull enemies toward it when it impacts a surface or a target, and the Hunter's Snare Bomb melee ability will now weaken opponents. And in PvP, players caught by a snare bomb will have their HUD removed and an obscuring screen applied for a short period of time. So that sounds like fun, and here they provide a clip of the Hunter's Mobius Quiver, followed by Trapper's Ambush and Stylish Executioner. Safe to say it's looking pretty juicy. And the 3 aspects to select from with Void 3.0 include Trapper's Ambush, and a player can activate Quickfall to spend their melee charge and dive to the ground. This creates a smoke cloud upon impact, and enemies caught in the cloud are weakened and allies become invisible. But in addition, snare bombs upon attaching to surfaces or enemies cause nearby allies to become invisible. Then there is Vanishing Step, where dodging makes the Hunter invisible, and Stylish Executioner, where defeating a void debuffed target, either weakened, suppressed, or volatile, will grant invisibility and true sight, and while invisible and after a Stylish Execution, your next melee attack will weaken enemies. And then finally we have the Warlock. They say Void 3.0 fine-tunes the Warlock's powers, and the Warlock's new aspects will, among new abilities, summon a brand new type of support from the yawning void of spacetime. The Nova Warp Super lets Warlocks quickly teleport from one spot to the next, and players can choose to let loose with a deadly Void Eruption, while the Vortex Super enhancement, a player's Nova Bomb will now draw enemies into a singularity it creates, damaging them once inside, and casting a Nova Bomb with the Cataclysm enhancement will cause it to travel across the battlefield and seek out enemies. But then detonations will shatter into smaller projectiles, and shooting the Nova Bomb will cause it to detonate early. Then the Warlock's melee, Pocket Singularity, fires an unstable ball of void energy that detonates when it nears enemies, pushing them away from the blast and making them volatile. And the devs say they expect this to be particularly useful in Crucible, and they talk about knocking players back when they're trying to rush you with shotguns and things like that. And they show off the Warlock's Child of the Old Gods right here, where you can cast your Rift to summon a Void Soul, and when you damage an enemy with your weapon, the Void Soul will launch itself towards them and detonate nearby, attaching draining tendrils which deal damage and weaken the target. And when your Void Souls deal damage, it restores either melee and grenade energy if you're running Healing Rift, or health if you're running Empowering Rift. And defeating an enemy who is being drained will grant Rift energy. There'll also be Chaos Accelerant, and you can hold down the grenade button to overcharge your Vortex, Axion Bolt, Scatter, and Magnetic Grenades, and Magnetic Grenades overcharge into Handheld Supernova. But also we have Feed the Void, where you defeat an enemy with a Void ability to activate Devour. So I'm pretty excited to get hands on with those and see how they perform in game. They definitely look pretty cool. But they say to complement the class-specific aspects, Void 3.0 will introduce a number of new fragments. And this is a look at a few of the ones that we've got to come. So Echo of Expulsion, where void ability kills cause enemies to explode, and this comes with an intellect bonus. Echo of Provision, where damaging enemies with grenades grants melee energy, which has a strength penalty, and then Echo of Domineering, and after suppressing a target, you gain greatly increased mobility for a short duration, and your equipped weapon is reloaded from reserves. And that one comes with a discipline bonus. And finally, Echo of Undermining, where void grenades weaken enemies, and that one has a discipline penalty. And they finally say another significant change for Void 3.0 is that all subclasses will have access to all void grenade types in the game. For example, as a hunter, you'll be able to run with suppressor or magnetic grenades instead of simply choosing between Void Spike, Void Wall, or Vortex, and in addition, some grenades will see upgrades. For example, the lingering field created by Vortex grenades will now suck enemies into it. And they say players who played before Witch Queen will have access to all Void 3.0 aspects, and most fragments with the launch of Witch Queen on February 22nd, but several fragments will be available after the world first raid completion. That's an interesting one. And they finished by saying new Destiny 2 players will earn their aspects and fragments as part of the new light game experience. So overall, I think that's sounding pretty interesting, and they seem to be broadly positive changes. As always though, we'll need to play around with these in game, but give us your thoughts down below. And for today guys, that is everything that we have to round up inside of this news video. So feel free to let us know what you think in the comment section, but also to get subscribed to the channel and turn on notifications if you don't want to miss out on any of the new Destiny 2 Witch Queen content. We'll have loads to talk about right here on the channel so I can keep you up to date. But also, a like rating down below really does help us out if you found the video useful today. And otherwise, whatever you guys get up to, I'll catch you all very soon.